There's one rule every tourist breaks in Brazil, and the moment you do it, every Brazilian at the table notices. It's not what you think, and it happens at every single meal. I learned this the hard way during my first month in São Paulo. I was at a nice restaurant in Vila Madalena eating a perfectly grilled picanha, and I felt eyes on me everywhere. The table next to mine, the waiter, even the couple across the room. Then my Brazilian friend leaned over and whispered, "You're holding your fork like an American." I looked down, and suddenly everything made sense. I was switching hands, fork in left, knife in right, cut, then switch the fork to my right hand to eat. In Brazil, you never switch hands. Fork stays in your left hand, knife in your right, the entire meal. It's called continental style or European style. And in Brazil, it's not just proper etiquette, it's the only way people eat in restaurants. Once I switched to keeping my fork in my left hand permanently, everything changed. Waiters became friendlier, locals smiled and nodded. It's a tiny detail, but in Brazil, these tiny details open doors. Let me show you the rest of the unwritten rules. Rule number 2, Brazilians almost never eat with their hands in restaurants. Even foods that Americans would pick up, like fried chicken, ribs, or empanadas, Brazilians will cut with a fork and knife. I've watched locals eat McDonald's burgers with cutlery. The first time I saw someone eat pizza with a fork and knife in São Paulo, I thought they were being fancy. Then I looked around the pizzeria, and everyone was doing it. In Brazil, eating pizza with your hands marks you as a tourist immediately. The logic is simple. Eating with your hands is seen as informal, messy, even unsanitary in public. At home with family, sure, Brazilians might pick up a slice, but in a restaurant or with people outside your inner circle, fork and knife always. But here's where it gets specific. There are Brazilian foods where eating with your hands is not just accepted but expected. Pastel de feira at a street market? Pick it up. Coxinha from a padaria? Use your hands. Grilled corn on the beach? Definitely hands. The rule of thumb: if the food is served on a plate at a table with chairs, use cutlery. If you're standing, walking, or it comes in paper wrapping from a street vendor, hands are fine. Context is everything in Brazilian dining culture. Now let's talk about the condiment mistake that horrifies Brazilians: putting ketchup on pizza. I watched an American couple do this at a pizzeria in São Paulo, and the waiter physically recoiled. The table next to them stopped eating to stare. In Brazil, pizza is sacred. São Paulo has one of the best pizza scenes outside of Italy, and locals take it seriously. Pizza comes with olive oil, oregano, and hot pepper flakes on the table, but never, ever ketchup. That's reserved for fries and salgados only. Here's the interesting part. Brazilians do use ketchup, but only on specific foods. French fries, pastéis, coxinhas, and hamburgers artesanais all get ketchup and mayo. But rice, beans, meat, salads, and especially pizza? Absolutely not. It's seen as disrespectful to the chef. Rule number 3 is about the por kilo buffet, the self-serve restaurants where you pay by the weight of your plate. Tourists always make the same mistake here, and it costs them money and respect. Let me show you how locals actually do it. Tourists pile their plates high with everything that looks good, creating a mountain of food. Locals do the opposite. They take small portions of multiple dishes, building a flat, organized plate where nothing touches. This isn't just aesthetics, it's strategy. You pay by weight, so a flat plate weighs less than a piled one with the same amount of food. Plus, separating your foods shows you understand Brazilian meal structure. Rice and beans form the base, protein in one section, farofa in another, salad separate. It's intentional composition. Another por kilo secret: locals go light on the salad and heavy starches at first. Why? Because salad has high water content and weighs more than rice or farofa per volume. Brazilians optimize for maximum food at minimum weight. It's an art form. And never, ever put your plate on the scale with your drink or bread still on your tray. I watched a tourist do this once, and the cashier just stared at her, waiting. Everyone in line behind her knew exactly what was wrong. Your drink and bread are weighed separately. Now let's talk drinks, because this is where cultural differences get really visible. In Brazil, Most people drink soda, juice, or water with meals, but very few drink alcohol with lunch or dinner during the week. Drinking beer or wine with food is weekend or celebration behavior only. If you order a beer with lunch on a Tuesday at a casual restaurant, you'll get served, but you'll also stand out. Brazilians associate daytime drinking with leisure or social events, not everyday meals. Coffee after the meal? Always. Beer during? Only tourists and locals on their day off. But at a churrascaria or on weekends, beer is everywhere. The context shift is dramatic. Friday night dinner, Saturday lunch, Sunday afternoon churrasco, these are the times when Brazilians drink socially. Timing matters more than the food itself when it comes to alcohol. Here's a rule that surprised me. Brazilians almost never split bills evenly at restaurants. If you ate more, you pay more. If you only had an appetizer, you pay less. The server will ask, "Etiquette separado?" Separate checks, and everyone pays exactly what they ordered. This isn't about being cheap, it's about fairness. If someone ordered a steak and 3 caipirinhas while you had pasta and water, why should you pay half? Brazilians value proportional contribution. Suggesting an even split can actually make you look inconsiderate, not generous. The one exception, if someone explicitly invites you out and says it's on me, they mean it. They'll pay the entire bill without hesitation. But if the invitation was casual, let's grab lunch, assume separate checks unless they specifically say otherwise. Context and wording matter enormously. Now we get to the timing rule that shocks most foreigners. Lunch is the big meal of the day in Brazil, not dinner. And I don't mean big as in, slightly larger. I mean sit-down, multi-course hot meal with rice and beans at 1 p.m. This changes everything about how your day flows. Most Brazilians eat a full hot lunch between noon and 2 p.m., rice, beans, meat, salad, the works, then have a light dinner at home later. Dinner might just be soup, a sandwich, or leftovers from lunch. The energy and investment go into lunch, not dinner. This is why Brazilian restaurants are packed between noon and 2 p.m., then nearly empty after 3. If you show up to a casual restaurant at 7 p.m. expecting the lunch menu and full service, you'll be disappointed. Many places only serve simple snacks or are already closed. But here's where it gets interesting for travelers. If you want to experience authentic Brazilian food culture, you have to adjust to this rhythm. Eating a light breakfast, big lunch at 1 p.m., and small dinner will connect you with how locals actually live. And it's surprisingly satisfying. One more lunch rule that matters. During the meal, Brazilians keep their hands visible on the table. Not elbows. Elbows on the table is still considered rude, but wrists and hands rest on the edge of the table between bites. Hands in your lap signals you're finished eating. This comes from European etiquette traditions that are still strong in Brazil. Keeping your hands visible shows you're engaged and present at the meal. It's a small gesture, but combined with the continental fork style, it creates a complete picture of someone who understands Brazilian table culture. Let's talk about the churrascaria, because this is where tourists make the most visible mistakes. If you've never been to a Brazilian steakhouse, there's a system. And if you don't know it, you'll either starve or explode. Neither is fun. Let me break down the unwritten rules. First rule, the little card on your table, green on one side, red on the other, controls the entire experience. Green means, bring me meat. Red means, I need a break. Tourists leave it on green the entire time and wonder why servers won't stop bringing food. Locals flip the card to red often. They'll take 2 or 3 types of meat, flip to red, eat slowly, have some salad, then flip back to green for the next round. The goal isn't to eat constantly. It's to pace yourself and enjoy the experience. And never, I repeat, never fill up on the salad bar first. I've watched so many tourists do this. They see the incredible buffet spread with salads and sides and Brazilian specialties, they load up a plate. And then the meat arrives and they're already full. The local strategy, start with meat first. Take small portions of 3 or 4 cuts, eat them, then visit the salad bar lightly. The salad bar is meant to be a palate cleanser and side dish, not the main event. It's a support system for the meat. Here's the insider move at a churrascaria. When the meat server approaches, look at the cut they're carrying before you say yes. You don't have to accept every single meat that comes by. Locals wait for the cuts they actually want: picanha, fraldanha, cordero. When the server offers meat, you can say so pauquinho, just a little, and they'll slice you a smaller piece. Locals do this all the time. You're not being rude, you're being strategic. Smaller pieces mean you can try more varieties without getting stuffed. And pay attention to how Brazilians eat the meat. They cut small bites with their knife and fork, never large chunks, and they chew slowly. The pace is deliberate. This isn't a speed eating competition. A good churrascaria meal lasts 90 minutes to 2 hours. Now let's talk about street food, because this is where the rules completely flip. At a food truck, a pastel stand at the feira, or a beach vendor, casual rules apply. You can eat with your hands, stand while eating, and no one expects formal table manners. But even here, there's one rule most tourists miss. Brazilians almost never walk and eat at the same time. If you buy a pastel at the feira, you stop, stand near the vendor, and eat it there. Walking through the market with food in your hand looks off. The logic is partly practical. Hot oil from pastéis can drip, and walking while eating is messy, but it's also cultural. Eating is a moment of pause, even when it's street food. You stop, you enjoy, then you continue. It's a rhythm you feel once you notice it. At beach vendors, the guys walking around selling grilled cheese, corn, caipirinha, the rules are even more relaxed. You can eat while sitting on your beach towel, walking along the sand, or standing in the water. The beach is the one place where eating and moving mix freely. One beach food rule that matters. When a vendor approaches you, it's totally normal to say no without explanation. Just a polite now, obrigado, and a smile. You're not being rude. Brazilian beach vendors expect most people to decline. No guilt, no pressure. Let's talk about cafe culture, because Brazil's relationship with coffee is intense, and tourists always underestimate it. Brazilians drink coffee constantly, after meals, mid-morning, mid-afternoon, after dinner, but the way they drink it is very specific. Small, strong, and fast. The cafezinho, literally little coffee, is a tiny espresso served in a demitasse cup, often pre-sweetened, consumed in 1 or 2 sips while standing at the cafe counter. You don't sit down for 20 minutes with a latte. You drink it in 30 seconds and leave. Ordering a large iced latte to go and walking around the city sipping it, that's a very American move. Brazilians will notice immediately. If you want to blend in, order a cafezinho, drink it at the counter, and move on. Coffee is functional fuel, not a lifestyle accessory. That said, specialty coffee culture is growing in Brazil, especially in São Paulo and Rio. You'll find third-wave coffee shops with pour-overs and single-origin beans. But even there, most locals still order espresso-based drinks. The big milky latte is still a tourist hell. Here's the timing rule for coffee. Brazilians drink café com leite, coffee with milk, only at breakfast. After 10 a.m., it's espresso or nothing. Ordering a milky coffee drink after lunch or dinner will get you a confused look. The milk coffee window closes mid-morning. Let's talk tipping, because Brazilian tipping culture is completely different from the US, and this confuses a lot of tourists. In Brazil, a 10% service charge is usually included in your bill automatically. It's listed as serviço or taxa de serviço on the receipt. That 10% is the tip. You're not expected to add more on top unless the service was exceptional. Leaving a 20% tip like in the US will confuse the server and mark you as a tourist who doesn't understand the system. 10% is standard, 15% is generous. And here's the important part, that 10% service charge is optional by law. The restaurant can add it to your bill, but you can ask to have it removed if the service was poor. Most Brazilians leave it, but technically, you're not obligated. But removing the service charge is socially awkward and rare. Most Brazilians only do it if service was genuinely terrible, rude staff, wrong orders, long unexplained waits. For normal or even mediocre service, locals leave the 10% without comment. It's the path of least resistance. Now let's talk about juice, because Brazilian juice culture is massive and tourists almost always miss it. Fresh juice, suco natural, is everywhere. Restaurants, street stands, markets. And Brazilians are very specific about how they order it. There's a whole vocabulary. When you order juice, the server will ask, "Com água ou com leite?" With water or with milk, this matters. Some fruits like banana, avocado, papaya are traditionally blended with milk. Others, like passion fruit, pineapple, orange, are blended with water. There's a correct answer. Ordering passion fruit juice with milk or banana juice with water will get you a weird look. It's not wrong exactly, but it's OFF. Locals know the traditional pairings instinctively. If you're unsure, just say, "Como vou queres fazem?" How do you make it? And go with the standard. The server will also ask, "Com açúcar?" With sugar, most Brazilian juices are sweetened unless you specify otherwise. If you want it unsweetened, say "sem açúcar" clearly. Otherwise, expect sugar. Brazilian taste preferences lean sweeter than most foreigners expect, especially with juice. One more juice rule: Brazilians almost never drink juice with ice unless it's a hot day or they specifically ask for it. The default is cold but not iced. If you want ice, say "com gelo." If you want it room temperature, which some people do, say "natural." Let's talk about one of the most misunderstood rules. Table service in Brazil is slow by American standards, but it's not bad service. Servers don't bring the check until you ask for it. Meals are expected to last an hour or more. Rushing is considered rude. When you're finished eating, you sit, talk, relax. The server won't interrupt. When you're ready to leave, you signal for the check, make eye contact, raise your hand slightly, or say a conta, por favor. Until you ask, they assume you want to keep sitting. This is respect, not neglect. This is why American tourists often feel frustrated. They're waiting for the check that never comes. Meanwhile, Brazilian diners are sitting at the next table for another 40 minutes, chatting over empty plates. It's not slow service. It's a completely different cultural expectation of dining time. If you do need faster service, maybe you're in a rush or need to catch a flight, it's totally acceptable to say upfront, "Estamos com pressa, pode trazer rapido?" We're in a hurry, can you bring it quickly? Servers will accommodate, but without that signal, slow is the default. All right, let's talk about regional differences, because Brazil is huge and food culture varies dramatically by region. What's normal in São Paulo will look weird in Salvador. What's expected in Rio might confuse people in Curitiba. Let me break down the regional quirks. In São Paulo, the dining culture is formal and fast-paced. Business lunches, strict meal times, polished table manners. In Salvador and the Northeast, it's slower and more relaxed, meals last longer, formality matters less, and eating with your hands at casual spots is more common. The vibe shifts dramatically. In Rio, beach culture affects everything. Eating street food while sitting on the sand, drinking beer in the afternoon, casual dress at restaurants near the beach. These are all normal. But step into a restaurant in Leblon or Ipanema and the formality snaps back. Context is everything. In the South, Rio Grande do Sul, Santa Catarina, the churrasco culture is intense. Meat is central, portions are huge, and the gaucho traditions around barbecue are treated almost ceremonially. Refusing meat at a churrasco in the South is like refusing hospitality. It's socially awkward. The Northeast has its own rules around seafood. Moqueca, acarajé, fresh fish grilled on the beach. These dishes come with specific eating traditions. Acarajé, for example, is eaten with your hands, standing up, bought from baianas in traditional dress. Sitting down to eat it with a fork would look absurd. In smaller towns and rural areas, dining rules are much more relaxed across the board. Eating with your hands is more acceptable, formality drops, and meals are often communal. Everyone shares from the same serving dishes in the center. It's warmer, less structured, more family style. So here's the takeaway for travelers: watch the room. If you're in a formal restaurant in São Paulo, follow strict etiquette. If you're at a beach shack in Bahia, relax. Brazilians adjust their behavior based on context constantly, and as a visitor, you should too. Now let's talk about the one rule that transcends all regions and contexts: showing appreciation for the food. Brazilians notice when you enjoy their cuisine. Complimenting the meal, estava delicioso, goes a long way. Food is personal here. Chefs and cooks take pride. If you're eating at someone's home, which is a huge honor in Brazilian culture, compliment the food multiple times during the meal. Not excessively, but genuinely. And always accept seconds if offered. Refusing feels like rejecting their hospitality, even if you're full. At home meals, there's also an unwritten rule about timing. You don't start eating until everyone is served and seated. Wait for the host to begin or to say "bom appetite." Starting before everyone has food is considered impolite and shows impatience. The meal is communal, not individual. One final etiquette rule that surprises people. In Brazil, it's completely normal to use a toothpick at the table after a meal, but you cover your mouth with your other hand while doing it. You'll see this everywhere, restaurants, homes, even at business lunches. It's not rude, it's expected. All right, let's pull it all together. These rules aren't about being perfect. They're about showing respect and blending in enough that locals feel comfortable around you. When Brazilians see you using continental fork style, pacing yourself at a churrascaria, and drinking your cafezinho standing up, they notice. And when locals notice, everything changes. Servers become warmer. Strangers start conversations. You get invited to join tables. Brazilian hospitality is incredible, but it opens widest for people who show they care enough to learn the culture. Food etiquette is the gateway. The biggest mistake tourists make is thinking food is just fuel. In Brazil, food is connection. It's how families bond, how friends celebrate, how strangers become friends. When you respect the rituals around food, you're respecting the people. That's what these rules are really about. Will you mess up sometimes? Absolutely, I still do. But Brazilians are forgiving when they see you're trying. Attempting to speak Portuguese, asking how things are done, showing curiosity about the food. These efforts matter more than perfection. Authenticity beats flawless etiquette every time. So here's your action plan. Next time you sit down at a Brazilian restaurant, keep your fork in your left hand the whole meal. Skip the ketchup on pizza. Pace yourself at the churrascaria. Order a cafezinho and drink it at the counter. These small moves will change your entire experience. And remember, food culture is regional. What works in São Paulo might feel stiff in Salvador. What's casual at the beach might be too informal in a Zona Sul restaurant. Pay attention to what locals around you are doing and adjust. Flexibility is your superpower. One last thing, when you get these details right, Brazilians will often comment. They'll say something like, "Vou querer já conhece o Brasil bem." You already know Brazil well, even if it's your first trip. That's the signal. You've crossed from tourist to traveler. Brazil is one of the most welcoming countries on earth, but that welcome opens widest for people who show respect for the culture. Food is the easiest, fastest way to show that respect. Master these simple rules, and you won't just eat well in Brazil, you'll connect deeply. If this guide helped you feel more confident about eating in Brazil, subscribing to the channel helps me reach more travelers who need real, honest advice like this. It's free for you, and it tells YouTube this kind of content matters. That's how we grow this community together. Thank you for watching, and for caring enough about Brazil to learn how things really work here. Next time you sit down at a Brazilian table, you'll know exactly what to do, and locals will notice. Welcome to the real Brazil. See you in the next one.